very good evening. Welcome to World Now at 4. I am Peace Ogenegbawe. First, let's talk the headlines. On the headlines, courts reject Okorocha's bail plea. Relatives grieve loss of babies killed in hospital fire. On the international scene, West has declared total war on Russia. And on sport, Piero Pala's Eagles coaching crew. Now the news in detail. Today is Children's Day, and it is a fun day with serious message. It offers us an opportunity to promote and celebrate children's rights that will build a better world for them. The theme for 2022 Children's Day celebration, A Better Future for Every Child, gives a platform to push parents and government to advocate, celebrate and promote children's right to secure the future of every child. Nigerian children share their meaning of the celebration with Hills TV correspondents. Children also urged parents, government and other children to pick the less privileged on the street for a better life and education. Meanwhile, in a similar development, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari is celebrating with young Nigerians on the occasion of this year's Children's Day celebration, pledging his administration will continue to work hard to ensure that every child has access to education, which prepares them for a bright future. The President recognizes the place of education in the development of every country and is committed to seeing a further significant reduction in the number of out-of-school children. He acknowledged that while education of the Nigerian child will remain on the front burner for his government, other issues such as healthcare, protection and arms and harm, drugs, cultism, child trafficking and abuse, domestic violence are equally receiving needed attention from the government. The President believes that Nigerian children deserve the best and a safe country where they can grow, make friends, interact and travel freely and emerge as successful leaders in different fields of endeavor is also very important. Failure of the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is INEC, to reinstate Anioma North Constituency 2 in Delta State since November 29, 2019, when the Supreme Court ordered the electoral body to ensure restoration of the constituency, has triggered fresh tension in the area. Traditional rulers, elders and leaders of Idumuje and Odiani clans in Aniocha North local government areas, February wrote to the national chairman, INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, requesting for audience with him over the commission's inability to comply with the Supreme Court order. INEC did not grant the request, which further escalated anxiety in the affected communities, comprising Idumuje Uno, Idumuje Uboko, Uko, Nzu, Uboba, Idumogo, Ubodu, Obolobo, Anioma and Ogodo in Aniocha North local government area, Delta State. According to counsels to the plaintiff, Akaya Humphrey Okolie, the two other indigenes followed up in a letter dated March 8 to the INEC chairman, informing him that the electoral body had since November 2019 declined to comply with the said judgment. The plaintiff gave INEC a 14-day ultimatum since March to restore Aniocha North Constituency 2 in Delta State or face legal sanctions for disregard of court. The Federal High Court in Abuja has today refused to admit former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha, who is currently at the EFCC's custody bail. Justice Ian Ekwo instead ordered Okorocha through his lawyer Ola Olanikpekun SAN to put the anti-graft agency on notice, according to reports. Olanipekun had, in an ex parte motion, prayed the courts to grant Okorocha bail on liberal terms, pending the hearing and determination of motion on notice filed on May 25. The ex parte motion was dated and filed May 26. The senior lawyer also hinted that he had also filed a motion on notice seeking that his client get bail. Meanwhile, Justice Ekwo held that since the matter would be coming up on Monday, May 30, making an order for the release of the lawmaker on bail would be unnecessary. The judge fixed May 30 for the hearing of the motions, directed the lawyer to put the EFCC on notice. He had also threatened to strike out the case if the EFCC failed to produce the senator in the next adjourned date, after 2 adjournments for his arraignment. Meanwhile, operatives of the EFCC were said to have invaded Okorocha's residence on Wednesday following his refusal to honor the Anti-Corruption Commission's invitation after he was alleged to have jumped the administrative bail earlier granted to him. The lawmaker was whisked away after some hours and remanded at the EFCC's custody. He will be standing trial, along others, on allegations bordering on money laundering while he served as governor of Imo. You're still listening and watching World Now at 4 on Hills TV. When the news returns, news from other parts of Africa. Welcome back. Senegal's President Macky Sall has decreed a 3-day national mourning for the 11 newborn babies who died in Tivaouane Public Hospital after a blaze broke out late Wednesday in the neonatal unit, as is expected in the city Saturday. The occurrence in western Senegal has made grieving families continue to come to the Mame Abdou Aziz S.Y. Dabak Hospital in Tivaouane for answers. According to Health Minister Abdoulaye Diop Sarr, the tragedy was caused by a short circuit. The maternity unit was equipped to take care of 13 babies. The mayor said 3 babies were saved, while the grieving families are waiting for the end of the investigation to go through their mourning process. President Macky Sall sent his deepest sympathies to the mothers and their families. The accident comes after several other incidents at public health facilities shook the Senegalese public opinion. Following the death of 4 babies in a fire at the public hospital last year, organizations called for an inspection and upgrade of neonatology service in hospitals across Senegal. Executive Council of the African Union met in Malabo on Thursday ahead of 2 summits set to tackle the humanitarian and political crisis the continent faces. African Union leaders started to gather in Equatorial Guinea ahead of 2 extraordinary summits scheduled on Friday and Saturday. In an address in Malabo on Thursday, the AU Commission chairperson pointed at several issues about 20 heads of state are due to tackle as terrorism continues to spread a deadly web with considerable consequences on finances, economies, and people's safety. Unconstitutional changes will also be on the agenda in a second meeting on Saturday. Military coups in Mali, Sudan, or Guinea are just some of the regime changes that occurred in the past 2 years, with either no timeline set for a return to constitutional order or divisive ones. Mahamat said the coup marked a regression in the democratic process and progress countries have been undertaking for 2 decades. Some countries may raise the case of Chad, ruled since April 2021 by a junta led by General Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, the son of long-serving leader Idris Deby Itno. But the EU and France backed the young Deby, even as they condemned and sanctioned military regimes elsewhere. Moving away from that, we move to other parts of the world. After this break, do stay with us. Welcome back. Families whose detention has focused anger over Australia's asylum seeker policies have won a 4-year battle to return to their Queensland town. Australia's new government granted visas to Murugapen family, allowing them to temporarily live and work in Biloela. The Tamil family has been in immigration detention since 2018 after their claim for asylum was rejected. This case sparked an outcry, and locals in Biloela campaigned for their return. Legal challenges to the decision to deny them protection remain before Australia's court. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who won an election last Saturday, said his government would make an exception for the Murugapens. And moving away from that story, we bring you this other story from the West, where Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has accused Western countries of waging a total war on Russia and its people and culture as Moscow pushes on with its military operation in Ukraine. He accused the West of banning Russian writers, composers, and other cultural figures in the statement right now.
The West declared to us, to all Russian world, a total war. No one is even hiding that anymore, and now it's getting even absurd, this cancel culture against Russia and against everything tied to Russia, related to Russia. Tchaikovsky, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Pushkin are banned. The people are persecuted who represent our culture now. So we can be confident by confidently saying that this situation will be here for long, and we must be ready because it allows us to see the true face, true attitude of the West to those beautiful slogans, beautiful words they announced 30 years ago after the Cold War was over, about human values, about the necessity to build a common Europe as the common home from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean.
Moscow has been slammed with unprecedented sanctions after President Vladimir Putin sent troops into Ukraine on February 24. A husband to one of the teachers slain in Tuesday's mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, has reportedly died of heart attack. Joe Gracia, who was the husband of Irma Garcia, who taught for 23 years at the elementary school, was reportedly dead. The teachers killed by a teenager gunman in the shooting that left 21 people dead, including 19 children. And according to reports, an online fundraiser for the Garcia family had raised nearly $1.6 million out of an initial modest goal of $10,000 on Thursday night. On Twitter, a nephew of the late teacher, John Martinez, said that Garcia had passed away due to grief in the wake of his wife's murder, while a local news has reported that Garcia died of a heart attack. Garcia and the other teacher killed in the shooting, Eva Mireles, had been teaching together for 5 years and had more than 40 years of experience between them. The Garcias leave behind 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls, ranging from 12 years to 23 years. Up next is business news. To stay with us. Welcome back. Nigeria's federal government has expressed its determination to catalyze investment in the midstream and downstream sectors of the petroleum sector to create employment for youth and maximize local content opportunities. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, gave the assurance when he opened the Nigerian Content Midstream and Downstream Oil and Gas Summit organized by Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board in Lagos. Silva stated that the industry is exploring the opportunities in the sector as he commended the board for fostering dynamism in the sector. The minister also charged industry stakeholders to unlock the natural gas and domestic production potential. Also speaking, NCDMB Executive Secretary Simbi Wabote affirmed that the board is keen to maximize local content opportunities in the sector. According to Wabote, the profit margin is also attractive in the midstream and downstream, especially the LPG distribution value chain, and this serves as an incentive to players. It further emphasized on the need to maximize the potential of the sector to ensure energy security, national pride, adding that the direct social impact of the productive and effective midstream and downstream sector of the industry also needed to be maximized. Moving away from there, we move to the world, where Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif's administration in Pakistan has raised the cost of gasoline and diesel by 30 rupees a litre per each, according to Finance Minister Miftah Ismail on a Twitter post. The decision comes a day after the two sides ended week-long talks without reaching an agreement to revive the stalled loan. The resumption of the bailout will provide a much-needed relief to keep the South Asian nation economy afloat and avert a default. The stocks have tumbled and the Pakistani rupee dropped 9% in the past month, the worst performer among Asian nations, according to data compiled. The country's dollar bond dropped to a record low last week, and the program announced in 2019 was suspended earlier this year after ousted Prime Minister Imran Khan reduced fuel prices and then froze them for 4 months. That cost the government $600 million a month in subsidies. Premier Sharif deferred price increase 3 times since coming to power on April 11, causing a panic in markets over whether the government will be able to resume the IMF program. The fund team emphasized the urgency of the concrete policy actions, including the contest of removing fuel and energy subsidies and the 2023 fiscal year budget to meet program objectives. The IMF said in a statement on May 25 that the successful resumption of the project will unlock the remaining $3 billion from the loan program. Still on business news, inflation gauge closely tracked by the Federal Reserve rose 6.3% in April from a year earlier, just below a 4-decade high set in March and the first slowdown since November 2020. The Department of Commerce in the United States added to other recent signs, showing that while high inflation continues to cause hardships for millions of households, it may finally be moderating, at least for now. Reports also showed that consumer spending rose by a healthy 0.9% from March to April, outpacing the monthly inflation rate of the fourth straight time. On a monthly basis, prices rose 0.2% from March to April, down from 0.9% increase from February to March, I beg your pardon. Still, inflation remains painfully high, and it is inflicting a heavy burden, in particular on lower income households, many of them Black or Hispanic. Still to come, sports news on Hills TV. Do stay with us.
Good evening and welcome to Sports News and World Now at 4. I am Ainan Lubem. Now to Sports News. Super Eagles' newly appointed gaffer, Jose Peseiro, has joined the team camp in the United States ahead of tomorrow's friendly against Mexico at the AT&T Stadium.
It's a pleasure to me.
The Portuguese had also had a brief meeting with the coaching crew, while the Eagles had their first training session under the new coach. Following the Super Eagles' failed bid to qualify for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the Nigeria Football Federation announced the 62-year-old as the new national team manager as replacement for Austin Eguavoen, who served in an interim capacity after German Gernot Rohr was fired last December.
It's a pleasure to me to start to work today in the training, in the practice, because I start before to practice with the national team, and you start the way for go and for play the Africa Cup and win the Africa Cup. It's the first step or start the way now. I'm happy because these guys they come tired, they come from. The trip was long, but they show today the enthusiasm, motivation. They training with happiness, sure with the will. Of course, all of them, they know for reach that AFCON, because you want to win that AFCON. Okay, he's there, 23, but you must start today for improve our spirit, improve our cohesion.
The Eagles camp officially opened yesterday as the delegation from Nigeria arrived in Dallas, Texas early yesterday with some players, coaches and backroom staff based in Nigeria. However, 17 players are still expected to team up with the squad in the United States as Nigeria trade tackles with the new World Cup bound South American and North American teams as at the time of filing this report. New Test coach Brendan McCullum says his England side will pick their best team at every opportunity rather than resting and rotating players. England spent much of last year rotating the Test team, partly in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 40-year-old was speaking to the media for the first time since being appointed Test coach earlier this month. His first test in charge against his native New Zealand begins at Lord's on Thursday. England have won only one of their past 17 tests. The series against New Zealand marks the beginning of a new era, with McCullum working alongside newly installed Test captain Ben Stokes. The former New Zealand skipper was known for his aggressive batting and innovative captaincy. However, he said he will not attempt to reverse England's fortunes by expecting every player to copy his attacking style. McCullum, who led New Zealand to the 50-over World Cup final in 2015, expects some difficult emotions when he lines up against the World Test champions next week. And now to Formula One, where Ferrari's Carlos Sainz was third with 0.07 seconds behind Leclerc, with Verstappen fourth after damaging his tires on his final run with a lock-up. McLaren's Lando Norris was fifth, Mercedes' George Russell and Lewis Hamilton 8th and 10th. There were no crashes, but a number of drivers ran off track at the first corner. Along with Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez and Haas driver Kevin Magnussen had all moments there. Verstappen had gone quickest with his first run on then medium tires, having started the season on the hards, but after he braked too late into Saint-Devote on his next flying lap, his session was over and the Ferrari drivers and Perez managed to leapfrog the world champion. Williams driver Alex Albon had a very close shave when the car skipped sideways towards the barrier, braking for the harbour front chicane, but just managed to save the car. Hamilton's Mercedes skipped sideways at Tabak, the 7-time champion managing to keep it out of the wall. The Aston Martin of Sebastian Vettel split the Mercedes in 9th place. And over now to basketball, where Golden State Warriors have won the Western Conference Finals for the 6th time in 8 years. The Golden State Warriors beat the Dallas Mavericks 120-110 on Thursday to seal their return to the NBA Finals. After missing out of the past 2 years, the Warriors clinched a 4-1 win in the Western Conference Finals as Klay Thompson scored a game-high 32 points. They are the first team to reach the finals 6 times in 8 years since the Chicago Bulls in the 1990s. And that's sports news on World Now at 4. Back to Peace for the rest of the news.
Welcome back. The Federal High Court sitting in Yenagoa has ruled that former President Goodluck Jonathan is eligible to contest in the 2023 presidential election. The presiding judge, Justice Issa Ama Dashan, gave the judgment today, as he also held that Jonathan's right to vie for the office of president again cannot be stopped by any retroactive law. And that's World Now at 4 on Hills TV. But before we go, a quick look at the headlines again. We told you that courts rejected Okorocha's bail plea. We also brought to you that relatives are grieving their loss of babies killed in the hospital fire. And on the international scene, Russia says West has declared total war on Russia. And on sports, Pesero Palace Eagles coaching crew. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Hills TV, Instagram at Hills TV. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Hills TV. I am Peace Ogenegbawe. Thank you for watching.